Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live show for Wall of Storms. This is the second book in the Dandelion Dynasty series. It is going to be a 4-book series. This is book number 2. And today we're just going to chat about Wall of Storms. And I am joined with my friend Dion. So, Dion, you want to introduce yourself and tell us what kind of books you like to read?
My name is Dion. I guess I like a lot of fantasy. I like a lot of space opera too. I find a lot of humor in the space operas, but fantasy is what I grew up reading and what I read now mostly. Well, I listen to a lot of books. So yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you listened to this one audiobook. What did you think of the narrator?
Yeah, the narrator was incredible because if you've read or seen any of the names in this book, it's obviously Asian inspired. So it's very difficult for Western brain to read those names and try and pronounce everything correctly. I mean, the author even gives a guide on how to say things. And this author was smooth. He kept it perfect. Like it sounded incredible. Like I didn't notice anything that was wrong.
Nice. Yeah. No, so I listened and read physically. I did both for this book, and I felt like it was amazing because some of the times when I'd be trying to just read, like they would almost tongue tie in my head and I wouldn't really be pronouncing them. I would just kind of be like looking at them and be like, okay, I know that this collection of letters means this person.
Right?
Yeah, so I thought he did so well when he would be pronouncing them because like some of them like the vowels, I think it's the way the
Right.
vowels are, it throws off my brain. So,
Yep.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
He did a really good job. He keeps it smooth, which is probably really hard to do with something like that. So I think he did great. And his voice is good. And it was loud enough for me to hear. Right.
Yeah.
So I know that a lot of audiobooks are real quiet and soft, but he kept it pretty steady.
I agree. I feel like a lot of audiobook narrators, and I find that a lot of the like UK ones in particular, and this might just be me, but I feel like they have highs and lows a lot where they get
Right.
really quiet and then they get really loud. And I'm like, I'm trying to like listen to this while I'm doing other things. I'm not just sitting and focusing listening. So that's one thing I really do like about Michael Kramer, who, in case you guys were wondering, is the narrator for this book, is that he is very consistent in his volume. So I like that a lot.
Yep. I feel like a lot of narrators I think a lot of the older school thought is that people used to sit down and listen to the book.
Yeah.
But now in the modern age, we're working out, we're working, we're commuting, whatever. So we got to be able to, hear it.
Exactly. And I think this one was done so exceptionally well. And it was just great. It was phenomenal. But to just kind of briefly chat about what this series is about for people who haven't read it, we're going to do a little bit of non-spoilery stuff at the beginning, and then I'll warn you when we go into spoilers so you can hop off if you don't want spoilers for the book. But this is an Asian-inspired fantasy. It's written by Ken Liu, who has won some like Hugo Awards for his translated works that he's done. He's also the author of The Paper Menagerie, which is a collection of short stories that I hear is phenomenal. But this story follows like the rise of a dynasty. It is very militaristic. It is focused on the islands of a country called Dara. And the first book, which is The Grace of Kings, we start with a rebellion to overthrow the current emperor of that country. And we kind of follow that throughout the first book. And then in the second one, we have a time jump and we jump into like a different time, different conflict. But obviously I can't get into that without spoiling the first one. So it's kind of essentially where we are. It's very, very military focused, and it has very minimal fantasy aspects to it besides the fact that it is set in a completely fictional world. The main fantasy things that I personally feel it is completely foreign. So they have like foreign plants, foreign animals, those types of things. And then also their gods are involved in their world. So those are kind of the different aspects that I feel make it more into a fantasy book, but it's not the classic fantasy where you have like magic and dragons and that type of thing.
Right. Yep. I think that's a good assessment. I think it's definitely fantasy-esque. Mm-hmm. But it's not you're not going to see the dwarves and elves and stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Which I didn't know going into it. And so I was expecting more fantasy elements to start coming up. And when they didn't, I was like, wait, this would be the time. Like this is the time when Gandalf comes in and saves the day, right? But that doesn't really happen. So I feel like you kind of have that human struggle without the magical elements to bail them out or to save us or anything. So it's very like real and gritty, and like they go through a lot of trauma. It's very brutal and it's real. Like it just feels very real, even though a lot of the aspects of it to it, like obviously are fantasy.
Yep. Yeah, I like that you called it very human. That's they got to deal with the problems like in a very mundane way. You know, we don't just get to wave our fingers and the problems are gone. No.
Right. Yeah, we don't have the big bad wizard that can solve any problem.
Right. Yeah. No, they got to struggle and they have to think. They got to use their mind, which is cool. So that's cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I think that is done so well. I wanted to kind of chat a little bit about the writing style. So the writing style I feel is different. For me personally, I felt different from The Grace of Kings to The Wall of Storms. So without spoilers, kind of chat about your feelings about that. And we can jump into the spoilers later, just at this beginning part without it.
Right. Without spoilers.
Good luck.
No, it definitely, you can tell the author kind of grew in this, I guess, with his series, I guess, at least this series, from book 1 to book 2. And he definitely is very detail oriented, you know, and, but he definitely made it was easier to understand this book compared to the first one. And I don't know if it's just because I got used to like the world.
Yeah.
But like his writing it's very eloquent. And a lot of times it almost felt poetic, you know. He got it sounds really pretty. And you know, he uses a lot of, I guess this might be the Eastern style of, maybe it comes from his education or something, but the writing is it's different than a Western author's, I guess.
Yeah.
So just very pretty, very detailed, and it definitely has a direction, like it's going somewhere. So I don't know. What did you think?
I agree. I feel like the first book, when I was reading it, I felt a little bit more separated from the story than I feel like I do in a lot of books in general, but particularly like high fantasy books, when you're really getting down with the characters and you just like feel like you're in those characters' heads and stuff. I feel like the first book had a little bit more of a feel of a like omniscient storyteller that still knows what these characters are thinking and their motivations and those types of things. But since it covered such a huge expanse of time and so many large events happened in that first one, it was more of a very well done and very intriguing and engaging history telling of it, more than like we're diving into like this particular character's struggle and feeling throughout this historical event. Instead, it's more like this historical event, but we will pull in these very essential characters. But I feel like this book, we did focus more on like a shorter period of time. We like there are flashbacks. There's a lot of time covered if you really look at the amount of it, but like the actual like meat of it, I feel like was much shorter. And so we got a lot more of those character dynamics and like got to like sit with them a little bit more in their day to day. And I felt like I had a little bit more of that feel of being like present in the story. I really like both styles, honestly.
Yeah.
And they're both different, but I definitely can feel that difference between the first and the second.
Yeah, I feel like in the second, you got to know the characters a little better, maybe like maybe their personal feelings as opposed to like just their actions. You got to know like what, like the motivation behind things. You know, that was pretty cool to find out, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. I think it just has a different feel to it. And it definitely to me felt like the first book was almost a prologue to this actual series. Like you probably could even just read this series without reading The Grace of Kings, which I don't recommend. Just for anyone watching, I actually don't recommend doing that because you would miss so much of like the little details and stuff. But that's kind of how it felt, where like the actual meat of his story is happening now.
Right.
And like that's going to be the next 3 books, like the Wall of Storms through the 4th one.
Yeah, I feel like you could definitely start on the second book if you wanted, but you would definitely struggle to come to like an understanding of how the world works.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of open questions where you'd be like, what is going on? Why? But if you read the first one, those pieces will fit together like a puzzle. It'll be great.
Right. I think what you'd miss a lot would be the character dynamics in particular, to know like why Gin is the way she is, right, and why Cooney is the emperor, but he's not like emperor material in all reality, that type of thing, versus like you wouldn't really miss out on the actual story and meat of what's happening in the book. It's just a lot of those dynamics you'd miss out on, I think.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. But, no. Yeah. I do like how he did it, but I think that this was originally supposed to be a trilogy. And what makes me think that is because it says it on my book. It says this, right? That's what makes me think it. It says the second book in the Dandelion Dynasty, an epic fantasy trilogy by Ken Liu. Oh. And I know that this was printed a while ago because this is the UK printing, but it looks like this. And the UK printing has since been changed to have a different look to it.
Right.
So I think it was originally supposed to be a trilogy. And if that were the case, I think that would be very difficult to do because we're just now getting in the meat of what is happening within this story. How would you wrap it up in one more book?
Right. Like, I feel like maybe the author realized that too. He was like, wait, like this needs to be a little longer.
Have you seen the next book? You've seen the next book, right?
Yeah, it's the third one, yeah.
It's chunky. Like that's not a tiny book.
Yep.
Like, it's so big. And I think that Speaking Bones, which is the fourth book, is longer. I'm not positive, but it's really long too. So
yeah, he definitely got himself into an epic work that he needs. He needs a lot to do. So please
definitely. He's not stingy with his words. Like he definitely writes with as many words as he wants to. So yeah, I don't know how he could have done it in 3.
There's no way. But I'm glad he's still writing. It's good. You know.
It's coming out in June. The fourth and final book should be coming out in June. It's called Speaking Bones. We are going to continue doing this read along. I know that some people are kind of falling behind on it, and that's fine, guys. Don't stress about it. Like it's okay because I get that these are thick. You can go back and watch the lives later. But yeah, so June and July we're going to read the fourth one. But I also kind of during the non-spoilery part, I think this is my last part to chat about in there, and then we'll jump into spoilers. But on this one, it also says the Wuxia version. I don't know if I pronounced that wrong. I'm so sorry if I did. Wuxia? Wuxia?
No,
I don't know. WUXIA version of Game of Thrones. How do you feel about that description of this?
I don't know what the Wuxia is, but I know that it's like to me,
Asian martial arts-esque, I think. Let me Google it.
Yeah. I know that for me, I am not getting a Game of Thrones vibe.
Nope, me neither.
But if maybe there's like an aspect that they're feeling, but it's not, I don't know. Game of Thrones to me is a little bit more gritty. And this seems more high class, if that's a way of putting it.
No, because I agreed. I did not get the Game of Thrones vibe, and particularly because I read the first one before I saw this comparison, and I'm like,
nah,
I don't think so. But okay, so Wuxia, I can't. The pronunciation they give me is the Chinese characters, which I can't read, so sorry. But it says a genre of Chinese fiction concerning the adventures of martial artists in ancient China. So that description, I feel like fits. Like it does fall into that a lot more. But I also don't feel like it has the Game of Thrones feel to it either. And I feel like there was a time where they were comparing every adult epic fantasy to Game of Thrones. Just because it was the big thing. Yeah. And I just don't feel that in this one. This one feels so much different, like deeper and more philosophical. And like Game of Thrones is just brutal. Like that's all there is. There's no philosophy. Like it's just like kill or be killed, right? Like
yeah. It's very blunt.
Right, like it not saying anything bad against it.
No.
Also very well done for what it
Yep.
is. I just don't get that in this one. This one seems to have so much more nuance to it, I feel like, than Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And like the deepness of it, the philosophy, the like trying to protect human life and on one side and the trying to dominate on the other. Like I just don't get that Game of Thrones feel to it. When in Game of Thrones, and this is just my take on it, they didn't care how many people they killed as long as they won that throne. They're like, kill them all.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Family, friends, doesn't matter. Just kill everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, not like
I don't feel this. Am I the only one that's not getting this vibe?
Yeah. Nope. I didn't pick up any Game of Thrones. It's not even similar, I don't think. So.
I don't think so either. I think the first one, you get a little bit of that when you have so much change of power.
Right. Back and forth, definitely.
Yeah. But still, it has a different feel to it, I think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in the first one, there was quite a bit of dynamic, but it wasn't like they each had their own reasons for why they were going for the power. Like,
right.
And it wasn't super dirty, underhanded, I guess.
I feel like there was
Thrones, it is.
It is. And it's just, I just feel like in Game of Thrones, it's so much more about the brutality of it than it is about the reasons about it.
Than the story behind it.
Yeah.
And
this one, like, this definitely is brutal. Like, don't get me wrong. It's harsh, like, but it doesn't have the same feel of killing just to kill, at least on like one side.
Right. Yeah, I agree completely with that. Yep.
Okay, we are going to jump into spoilers. So I'm going to put a little banner down below just so people know that we are talking about spoilers now. So we don't confuse anybody or make anybody worse.
Can't be giving away no spoilers.
I know. I absolutely hate getting spoiled for books. So I don't want to do it to anyone else. But jumping into spoilers, is there anywhere you want to start? I have like several things to talk about, but
oh man. Well, for me, I personally really liked the science aspects of it. But I was an engineering major, and so those things are really cool to me. I want to point out the accuracy. Like all of the things he did that were sciencey, like for the military projects and stuff, are 100% how physics and mathematics work and chemistry. He was like, when they're hanging those chains and they kind of figured out, I guess, static electricity is what it is akin to.
Essentially.
Yeah. And he says that there was thunder. Yeah. I did that in my electromagnetism class. They actually do shoot electricity thing and it's thunder. Like amazing that he knows that. Because that's advanced physics. How many people know that?
I'm sure he had people consulting with him. He's got to be an amazingly smart person to begin with, but you don't know all these things unless you're an engineer of some point. So I'm sure he had people consulting to help him out.
Yeah. And I thought that it was cool that was kind of his substitute for magic. I know there's a little bit, but that was his substitute. He just went that route. And I thought that was a really unique way of doing things.
I feel like the way that he writes a significant portion of this book actually feels a lot like a science fiction instead of fantasy because of how much he dives into the science behind it. Because you get that a lot in science fiction books. And in fantasy, sometimes they'll give you, like, if you've read Brandon Sanderson before, right? When he's talking about like the science behind his magic system, he kind of does a similar thing. But this one is like real in that if you do it wrong, there are people out there who are going to Google it and call you on it type thing. So he really has to know his stuff in order to write it this way. Yep.
No, that was just my favorite. And it's through the whole thing in the first book and the second book.
Yeah.
And I thought, it takes, if he doesn't know those things naturally, it takes a lot of effort to go and research that and then put it together like the way he did.
Right, because he makes up ways to use it differently. This isn't ways that we use it. Like he's making up his own way and doing it in a way that is actually legitimately possible.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I just thought that was cool. And the way that the people are scientific, like the way they were dissecting animals to figure out how they work.
Yes.
You don't see that in a lot of fantasy. That's pretty cool.
No, I really enjoyed it for the most part. I feel like my issue with it was there was a chunk in there where that is literally all that was happening. And I'm like, okay, we needed to break this up a little bit, because after a while I wasn't paying as much attention to it because it was just so much clumped together. And so I feel like that's my criticism of the way he did it, is he clumped too much in that section. Like, it needed to be broken up a little bit more in order for me to be able to focus on it. So I think that's probably my only complaint about that, is it was too clumped in that little bit there.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think a lot of fantasy readers are gonna sit there and be like, why are we still going into detail about this?
Yes.
Like, we could have moved on and got more detail later. Or I agree. Some of it is very smashed into all in the same area.
For sure. It actually kind of reminded me, have you read any Andy Weir?
I don't think so.
The Martian, Hail Mary. Yeah. His descriptions of these ways to use science actually reminded me a lot of the way Andy Weir describes it. Which I really like how Andy Weir describes it. I think it's really well done. So it's actually kind of impressive that a fantasy writer can do that as well as a science fiction writer. So
So he either did a lot of research, or he knows a lot, or has a friend or something.
He's got to have a little bit of both. Like, you kind of have to have a little bit of both going on, I think.
And to care that much as an author, to sit down and write all these details of like how they're going to use these as a tactic, like in battle, like that's a lot of work.
Right, like,
rather than just being like, I got a wizard to do that.
Right. Or, I mean, when he's describing how to line the intestines with gold, I'm like, you could have just said we lined them with gold.
Yeah, he wouldn't do a lot of detail.
So, I think a lot of it was extremely well done, and I really like it, but I do like sci-fi. So I feel like if you don't like sci-fi, those parts probably would not be as appealing.
Right. I agree, because I like sci-fi too. So those things are interesting. But if you're looking for just fantasy, you might be disappointed, I guess.
This doesn't give you the feel of most fantasy books, I'll admit. So if you're a regular high fantasy reader and you love the fantasy aspects, this doesn't give it as much.
It does not. Nope. And that's particularly one of the reasons I liked this series so far. Like, I'm getting a whole different perspective. Like, it's brand new. Like, not the same old trope that you're, and don't get me wrong, I like the other fantasies, obviously, but this definitely changes it up. And you're like, wow, like this is a whole different perspective. Like, I feel like I grew as a reader. Like, I added something that was like valuable to my, I guess, things I've read.
No, I agree. It is so different and unique, and it kind of makes you evaluate what you're reading differently. When you're reading other ones that kind of use the magic as a cop out, you're like, like, you copped out there, right? Which, like, I feel like that's more in soft magic systems where that happens, but no, I agree.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you got?
What do I got? One of my things I want to talk about in particular is like Gia as a character.
Oh, yeah.
Is she a hero? Is she a villain? What do we think about her? Because she is probably one of the most complex and nuanced characters in this entire series.
Yeah, I really liked her in the first book too. But I really I don't know, she grew as a character, honestly.
Oh. Yeah, like, she did.
She really went from kind of not really a whole lot of detail to all the way to where she got to at the end there. Where like she really. Are you saying? Did you think she was a good guy or a bad guy? Is that what you're saying?
Kind of like do we think she's a hero? Do we think she's a villain? Because there's an argument for both, and I think either one could be legit. Like,
how are you seeing the villain part? I guess, and I'm sure.
She is like killing people who brought them to the throne in order to do what she thinks is best. But really, it's only her making these decisions unilaterally, and no one else is really supporting her in these. She's just backhandedly doing them behind the scenes, being very sneaky about it, and getting a lot of people killed who have been loyal to them for years, actually help to put them on the throne, maintain their throne, and do not deserve what is happening to them. And she's using them as pawns.
Yeah. It was almost like a really dirty subplot there.
Yeah.
Because at first, when I was listening to it, I was like, did I hear that right? Like, is she straight up like turning on these people that helped her?
Yep, yeah. She is.
But she kind of felt bad, right?
Oh, I feel like she felt bad, but she didn't feel that she did wrong. Even when she felt bad, she still felt justified.
Right. Do you think she had the Empire's best interests at heart? Or was she kind of being selfish there? Like,
see, this is the argument here. And it's
you're
like,
right.
it's so hard, right?
Right. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. I thought she was a great character, but I never like sat down and was like, oh no, like, what is
she's a phenomenal character.
Yeah. She's very
so, because this is kind of what I wanted out of her in the first book. Because in the first one, I feel like they set her up to be this like boss woman, right? And just like really own it and be like so like influential and stuff. And then they just kind of got her stuck in a place where she had no power, she had no real influence, and all she was doing was raising these kids and having an affair with what's his name, right? Like, so it was like
yes,
she was really almost nothing at that point.
Yep.
And so I was very disappointed in where they went with her in that book, because I felt like she had so much potential to like be so much more powerful and influential and do so much. And then in this one, it's almost like she's making up for what she missed in the last
right one. Yeah, because she did start off in the first one as very clever and tactful. Like it kind of felt like she was the brains behind, because Cooney's not exactly super intelligent, I guess.
Like he's tricky and he's smart, but he's not a mastermind.
Yeah, he's kind of like a trickster. Like he can get away with things. Like he can get out of a situation.
And he's very charismatic, which helps him a ton.
Right, but he's not going in with like a plan like she is. Like she's thinking. Oh yeah,
she's thinking like 10 steps ahead of him.
Yeah. So no, I don't know if she's bad or good.
Right? Like, and how can you make that call when I think she thought she was doing what was best for the people of Dara. But she wasn't. She was thinking very narrow-mindedly, I think, in that we have now gained power. We're never going to have to fight again. We need to just like go into a time of peace. And I think that when you are a country that has such a history of wars, even if you don't know that an invading force is coming, you can't put yourself in that situation where you don't have those military leaders to back you, and you don't have the supplies, and you don't have all of your allies who have proven themselves loyal to you to have your back. Like, I think that was a very poor move on her part.
Yeah, I don't know why she had this idea that like they couldn't fall again, I guess. Like there wouldn't be any kind of turmoil. Even if it's not from an outside like invader, like what about people rising up from the inside? Like
right, yeah.
And like, I don't know. She was very I had thought that too when it first started like happening. I was like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't gonna go well for you.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe that's why the author threw it in there, like, so that we could all be like, what are you doing?
I know. And like, I can see her point in that they don't want to always have to rule on their military strength, and they want to rule by systems because that is more sustainable. But you still got to have that military strength as backup. Like,
well, and you're not just going to get rid of your master tactician general. Like, you might get rid of some of the lower officers, I guess, but like the main one, like, come on.
And also, she stuck you on that throne. Like, what are you doing? Even if you think there's a potential that she might be a threat 50 years down the road, you kind of still owe her. Like, that just seems sketch to me. I was not impressed with her going after Gin.
Nope. I was wondering if the author was trying to portray a little bit of like paranoid now that they're there, Like, who's going to turn on us? So I wonder if he was trying to portray that maybe.
I
I guess
think
Cooney wasn't really part of it. So,
poor Cooney. Dude just got like
yeah. Yeah, it was rough for him.
I really love Cooney as a character, actually. He's
Yeah.
one of my favorites from this whole series.
Yep.
I think he was also a very nuanced character, but he also felt good. You know, like even though he was a morally gray character, he was much more on the good side. So I really liked him a lot. He was just like he was genuine, you know? He wanted to do what was best for his people, and he legit tried his best. He just wasn't that great at it overall.
Yeah. He felt like a unique, genuine character. It wasn't, even though it kind of was your classic, like from regular person to emperor, it also wasn't. Like, he did have to like fight to get to where he was.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't like the natural born, the one, or what, you know.
Yeah, he wasn't the chosen one. He wasn't the hidden heir, or anything like that. Like, he had to overthrow. He had to lead a rebellion and win an entire empire.
Yeah, like it was a struggle.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree. But I feel like she did so much sketch stuff, but killing Rosanna?
Why?
What?
Why?
Like, I actually completely understand her decision behind it, but I just don't think you could ever do that. Plus, Rosanna is also very smart, and she is on your side 100%.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like an asset. You're throwing one away.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. I don't know what was, and maybe it'll come into play later.
I think she was trying to, I get what she was doing. Like, she was trying not to make it so they would split, because Gia would actually have no power when Firo was the emperor. And Firo is not actually the best choice as emperor. I agree. He is way too impulsive.
Right. And not exactly
too much.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So I get why Gia wanted to have her influence on him. But I don't think she needed to kill Rosanna, and I felt like that was super sketchy. And I think she's gonna lose Soto, who is her biggest supporter, and that's not good.
Yep, I agree completely. I don't know what was going on there, but maybe that's an attempt to make the characters fallible. You know, they are human, and maybe her emotions got the best of her, and she got like running away in her head with these ideas, and decided, you know what, I'm gonna do things that I think are right, but they're actually mistakes like normal people make.
And we're gonna see it down the line that this was not your best call. Yeah,
because you see that in a lot of fantasies and stuff. Like, sometimes the characters are too perfect and not quite making those emotional mistakes that we all make. But here she is making, well, a whole slew of them. At least I feel like they are.
Oh my gosh, I feel like she made a lot of good ones though too, and I think that's what like keeps her up there. Is she has so many good choices that she made, and that really like turned the war. Right, she did a lot of great things, but overall, it wasn't exactly like great.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, what do you think about like the barbarians, as they're kind of called, the Liuku?
They were supposed to be the immortals.
Yes, the very brutal, bloodthirsty, quite almost evil people, let's be honest. Like, they were not okay.
Yeah, the way they like, I guess, first accepted the first envoy that kind of went there from the first emperor, and they like accepted them until they decided to slaughter them all.
I don't think they ever really accepted them, and I think that's they were pretending. And I think that's part of what bugged me about how they felt so self-righteous in what they did.
Yeah.
Because all along they were setting these people up for this. What they were doing, they were waiting for these people to like treat them like this. They were like, they almost like led them to it, and then they're like, oh, we're justified to do it because they started treating us like we were lesser than them. I was like, that's because you acted like that on purpose, so they would treat you like that, so you could feel justified in killing them and getting all their information. Like, I don't feel like they were really justified in that.
No, they weren't. And I think you're right that they are. I think he made a really good bad guy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look
Like
what
he
they're
is
doing to their.
smart.
I mean, I guess basically they're dragons, right? Is
Yeah.
kind of the idea.
Yeah. Like
But look
cow
how they,
dragons.
yeah, right. I mean, look how they keep their young all chained up and whatever,
Yeah.
so that the adults will do what they want. Like, yeah, he made them really good bad guys. You
Exactly. And
definitely don't like them. You're not like, all right, like,
right. And I think that they try
mhm,
as those people, the Liuku, they try to justify being like, well, how is it fair that we were born into this situation where we
right,
had no choice but to be this harsh and brutal and kill? And I'm like, but you don't actually. Like,
right,
how do you feel about that? Like, we were born into this situation where we had no choice but to be brutal and kill people. And now that we have this world of plenty, this isn't like we were born to this and it's not fair. So this is justified.
right. And they're gonna keep it the same. Like, they're not gonna try and do better or get better or anything. Right.
Right.
They're basically just staying with what they know. And
Yeah.
so, like, no, they're basically using it as a cop out.
Yeah.
Like, we can act this way because of this. Like,
I agree.
no,
'Cause
wrong.
even within their own island, I feel like it's
Mhm.
not justified. How when he conquered, he just like took the other people as slaves
Yep.
and still was brutal and harsh in everything he did. And I'm like, you don't actually have to be that way. If you looked at your resources and like took, I guess, like an economical approach to it,
Right.
you can limit the number of births, you can like see what types of resources you have, you can make it less brutal by being economical about it. And that's kind of what the people of Dara did, I think, is they
Right.
advanced more and so they didn't have to be as brutal in order to maintain. And granted, they had more like resources, but also like you don't have to, you choose to.
I feel like the barbarian type people just might have the same amount of resources, but they don't utilize them. So, like, they don't go out of their way to go, like it says they never cut down their trees and stuff. Like, they just kind of like ignore all their natural resources and worry about their grazing herds
Yeah.
of dragons.
Of dragons.
So I don't know like what's going on there. I don't know why they were. I guess the author is making it so that we are like, yeah, like screw those people. I want them to lose. Like, they're good bad guys. Like,
They are really good bad guys.
doing a good job at making them where you're just like, man, I hope they lose. Like, these guys are just completely, yeah, they're making my day bad.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is you're going in being like, well, yeah, they had so much less. They don't have the resources that Dara has. They want to be able to live these more comfortable and happy lives. And I just feel like you can never justify that when what you're going to do is make the other people slaves. Like once
Right.
you're like, ooh, the people that already live there are going to be our slaves. I'm like, oh, justifications are now gone. Like that's like you no longer are justified in anything that you're doing.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, I think that, I mean, it kind of made it so that you could root for Dara,
Mhm.
right? You did have a reason, because in the first book, you don't really have a Dara to root for, really.
No.
You know, I mean, you could pick one of the main people that's going for power, but in the second book, we actually have a land and a people,
Yeah.
and we can get behind them and say, as a reader, and say, yeah, I want these guys to win. And I definitely think those people should lose because they're jerks. Like,
They're so like they treat
oh,
their dragon cows so poorly. I felt
bad.
terrible for
Yeah.
them.
Yep. And
Like that was so sad.
they treat each other pretty bad. Like, it's nasty for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but that's what we want in a bad guy.
It's true. I mean, they are real good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh. Okay. But also, I feel like them coming in to conquer kind of brings up again that like cycle of conquerors, how the people that we are rooting for were the conquerors not that long ago.
Yeah, very shortly before that. Yeah.
Right. And how they conquered the people that were already there. And now there's other people coming in to conquer them. So, like, is this just like a cycle that is going to happen? Like, are we rooting for some people that, like, they already, like, they were the conquerors and now they're thinking the other people are evil for coming and taking their land? And I'm
Right.
like, well, you took it from the people that were there before as well. So, like, I don't know. I think it definitely gives a lot of nuance to the story, being like, ooh.
Well, and they took, like you're saying, they took the land from the people before. Well, you felt justified in doing that, right? So
Right.
we don't know the background, the full background and story of these invaders. So had we read theirs, maybe we'd be rooting for them to win. Like, we don't,
Right.
because in their eyes, Dara's the bad people.
Right. I feel though we got enough background for me to say that I definitely do not support them.
Yeah.
I feel like their excuse of our island doesn't have as much resources and yours has more, so we're going to take it, kind of goes out the window when you come to just kill them rather than being like, hey, like, we're going to be landing here and joining you. We don't want to kill you, but we will. Let us come and be peaceful, or we're going to kill.
And you got to give it to the Empire because several people in the Empire tried to make it peaceful.
Yeah, they did.
Different people were like, why can't we just get along? There's plenty of everything.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we're going to be bad.
Right. They're like, okay, like, we'll let you live, but you're going to be our slaves.
Right. Yeah, for no reason.
Well, that's not really an agreement. Like,
yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't know. He kind of painted them as kind of, I guess, like you said, barbarians, but they don't use their intellect as much. They can definitely understand things, but the people of Dara are more educated, I guess.
They are, yeah. And I think that happens because they have stopped warring long enough to allow that to be a more prominent thing, whereas the people from the Liuku people don't seem to have ever stopped that. Like, they're constantly at war, so there's no time to be a scholar, right?
Yep. I think one of the things that really bothered me about them was, and I don't remember the guy's name, but basically he was like the first one, and he like befriended that dragon and then like
killed it
for no reason.
Right.
And like, she was his friend. Yeah, that really made me hate them.
I was so mad. I know. And that's kind of like the blind obedience of those people.
Right.
But, while I'm on that line, one of my other thoughts was how the Liuku people have such blind obedience to their leader. You don't see the kind of betrayals that you see on the side of the Dara people. Like, oh my gosh, between Grace of Kings and Wall of Storms, the amount of betrayals that happen within like these Dara people it's insane. It's mind-boggling. Like, how can people betray their people so much? Like, I'm thinking of our wars now, and I'm like, I have never seen this type of betrayal. This is insane. This is ridiculous. Like, how can you betray your people like this? And that is an issue that the Liuku people don't have because they blindly follow their leader no matter what. And I guess that's a benefit of being so brutal.
Yep. Well, and less educated.
Yeah.
Right. The educated people are going to start thinking for themselves and wanting more power and being able to come up with tactics and ways to outsmart each other to get more power. But if you just rule over people and they do everything that you tell them, you don't have to worry about backstabbing. Like, everybody's got your back.
It's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. That betrayal at the end,
I
was like, that was ridiculously uncalled for.
Yep.
Like, I don't even understand why you did that, because you know the Liuku people are not going to actually make you someone important. They're going to use you until you're no longer useful, and then they're just going to kill you.
Right. You're talking about the merchant, or
yeah, what's his name? Like Nodomi or something like that. Is it Nodomi? Is that his name?
Yeah, I think that's and for no reason, right?
Yeah.
Like, just because the other guy had some doubts and was like, wait a second, like, is that really what we need to do? And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to kill you and do it anyway. Like, why?
Yeah, and he like betrayed the entire Dara fleet when they were gonna win. Like, why not be on the side that's gonna win instead of going to the side that still lost anyways?
Yeah. Like,
even though you betrayed them.
Yep. But I guess behind that was the greed, right? He really wanted more power and more money, and like he was just a bad person all around.
I guess it's so hard for me to understand that because my ambitions are quite minimal. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not the most overly ambitious person.
Yeah.
So anytime someone does something like that, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you would have been an important person in Dara if you would have won this for them. Maybe not a king or a lord, right? Like, you would have been below him a little bit, but you would have still been very important and influential. Like, what are you doing?
But they were already kings and lost that.
Yeah.
Weren't those the two that were the kings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah. And then they got themselves in trouble some more. And yeah, so no. He would have been just fine. He would have had some power and stuff, but the guy, he didn't want that. He wanted more.
Yeah. And
he thought for some reason in the middle of this battle that the other side was going to win somehow, even though they were already drastically losing.
And they still lost. I'm like,
yes,
dumb.
Why?
But I just don't like the amount of betrayal that happens in these books is astounding. It's almost like you expect it constantly. Like, you never think anyone is on your side.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the Game of Thrones like relationship.
That's true. I could see that.
I guess there is a lot of betrayal.
It's
and it's kind of out of nowhere. Like, it'll just blindside you. Like, bam! All of a sudden, this guy's betraying his best friend. Like,
mm-hmm. Or like Gia when she walks in when Risana's testing the poison, and she's like, "Dang, figured me out. Gonna have to kill you anyways."
Yeah, like, why?
Like, you are not a nice human.
Yeah.
What did you think about the like gods changing when the new people came to the world? Because I thought that was very interesting aspect of it, how the new people came and started worshiping them in a different way, and the gods actually changed based on what the people thought of them.
Right. And it almost seemed like the gods were kind of like, wait, why? You know, they weren't quite understanding what was happening either.
Yeah.
So that I thought that was really interesting. The gods themselves are just, I was wondering if they kind of were playing a role in what we were just talking about. Like, because you know that they like to influence things and they have a very active role in the world. So I'm kind of wondering like what games they're playing with the betrayals too.
Oh yeah. I feel like they definitely have a hand in them. I feel like they can't help it. Like, they say they stay out, but they just can't stay out.
Well, it says in the beginning when they're coming up with the calendar or the years, the gods can't resist games. They love games. And so it makes total sense that this is their mischievousness, I guess.
Yes, I agree. I kind of like it though. I really, really enjoy the gods aspect of it. And I think one of the interesting things is it Lutho that at the end becomes mortal in order to go with them?
Yes, and because he's stuck in the same body as another god, right?
Oh yeah, they hate each other.
Yeah, and they hate each other. And when he's like, listen, I'm going to go become mortal. And the god that he was talking to is like, well, it's only temporary. And he's like, no, I'm leaving. Like,
because I'm literally going to a different part.
And he quotes that another god had already done that. He's like,
it was a punishment.
Yeah,
like he had to do it. Gosh, what were their names? I think it's in here. Just a sec. Where are the gods? It was Lutho talking to Tazu.
There you go. Yeah.
I had to look. I'm so bad at keeping track of their names.
There's a lot of names in these books.
I think that's part of why the second book was easier to read, is because you were already familiar with so many of the names. The first one, I was like, I don't even remember this person, and all of a sudden they're important.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. Now the
like,
gods are
Yemo or some crap. He just keeps popping in every once in a while, and I'm like, right? Who is that?
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta look up his name now. Where is he? Puma Yemu.
Wait, who is?
See, you keep forgetting who he is, and I did the same thing. And every time he popped back up, I'm like, who the freak is this person? Because they talk about him like we know. So you remember in the first book when there were the bandits that were attacking their caravans on the roads and stealing stuff, and then Cooney convinced him to work for him and attack the caravans of the opposing force. That's him. And then he turned him into like some sort of lord or marshal.
Right.
And then anytime he needed some sneaky thing done, he'd pull in this dude like to drop the locusts on the island and stuff.
Right.
But every time he'd come back in, I'm like, wait a second, who is that dude?
That's who he is. Yeah. Yeah, I know him.
Right?
Yes.
But every time they'd bring him back up, I'm like,
Right. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
Yes.
Yeah. I like how the gods meet from time to time.
Yeah.
Argue or whatever they're doing. Plot against
agree on nothing.
Yes. And I like how they also are not omniscient. They don't know everything. They don't, because they're asking where their brother is at one point.
Yeah.
Like, where's he at? And everyone's like, I don't know. I haven't seen him. But they don't know where they all are at the same time.
Yeah.
And they don't know everything about the humans, right? The mortals, I guess. They don't, because they're curious about them. You know, they know enough, but they also are saying, like, we don't know why they act that way. It's just their nature. Like, yeah. I thought they were really cool. And I like that they're part of everything, but they're not coming down and like smiting everyone and all, like, they're not all crazy. Like,
no.
They're enjoying it.
I really love though when they're like, you can't like convince the whale to swallow him and then bring him back. Like, that's not fair. He's like, oh, I didn't. The whale swallowed him on his own. I just kept him alive inside the whale. I'm like,
and he's like, it's quite challenging. It's like,
oh like the little twists of what happens. I'm like, oh, you guys, like they know how to toe that line.
Yep. Yeah, because they're constantly messing with each other and sticking their hands where they shouldn't be. Like, because they all have like apparently this agreement, right? That they can only do so much. And some of them like really push that boundary. Like they blur the lines a lot.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. No, I loved it. So, okay. You know what? One of my favorite parts of the entire book was like, it just brought me like so much satisfaction. So one of my favorite characters throughout this entire 2 books has been Luanzia. Luanzia G, I guess is how he is at the end. But seriously, the best character, I think, in the whole thing. Like,
great character.
Like, I love him. He is my absolute favorite. I am depressed that he is gone. Like I haven't accepted it. I am in denial. But when he tricked them into bringing all their people through and then it just annihilated half of the people, I'm like, oh yeah, like, that was the best thing ever. I'm like, you're a boss. You're like,
and he did that with math, right? Because he's so smart that he figured out the pattern and then gave them a fake part of the pattern, right?
Yeah.
Like,
because he had to figure out the pattern for real openings and then he had to figure out the pattern for partial openings. Yeah. I'm like,
and make sure that they took that one. Yeah. Clever.
Oh my gosh. Like that. I don't think I've ever been more like, it's like that righteous justice. You're just like, that was one of my favorite parts of both books. I'm just like, you shouldn't have killed him.
Yep.
Now,
to me, I guess he's our resident wizard. I mean, even though he's not using magic, he's still the scholar who figures stuff out, and he's intelligent, he's kind, he has wisdom. Like he's just all about knowledge. He wants to go learn things. Yeah. Like, and he does, like,
he's our Gandalf, but
pretty much. Yeah. Without the, fire out of his staff or whatever. Like,
I can be wrong. No, he's my absolute favorite in the whole thing. I can't believe that he's out of it. Like, we're not even halfway through the series.
I know.
And that's another thing at the ending. They have killed so many of our original important characters. I almost feel like we're just now following the secondary characters that have now come after, which I'm kind of disappointed in. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I was wondering if that's how it was going to go. We were just going to kind of get like the offspring and like the characters that came around rather than the OGs, I guess. he killed off, a couple, or they left or whatever. Like, I'm not sure. I know a lot of people have complained about that, like that you're not staying with the same people. And it kind of feels like that's the direction he's going to go with every book.
Yeah.
Right. He just, I don't know. I don't know why he does that.
I don't know either. And I'm going to be honest. I thought that's what was going to happen between the first and the second, is that we were going to have like the first one. And then when we went into the second one, we weren't really going to follow the original ones at all. Like, they weren't going to be as important. We were going to jump down to the next generation. And I feel like if that would have happened, I wouldn't have minded it as much, because that's what he was kind of doing. But I wish that he wouldn't have made these characters so important in this book as well, just to kill them all off. Like, that kind of bugged me. It almost felt like he gave all of them these big heroic deaths to get rid of them so that he could move on to these new characters.
Yep.
And I was not a fan of that.
And I don't know if he's just trying to be, like a lot of authors where they're just killing people for the shock effect so that you're like, why? Or if he has a reason down the road, like what's going on here. I don't know.
I just feel like it's kind of opening it up for like Zomi to be the next Luan, and for like Firo to be the next Cooney, and for like, I think he's just kind of pushing the old guard aside and bringing in the newbies. And I think this book, he was trying to like get us attached to the new ones, and like get rid of the old ones. But I just wasn't a fan of that. I'm like, you just kind of killed them all.
Right. Why?
Yeah.
It didn't really. Yeah, I don't know where he was going with that.
Like, Gia, I think, is the only one pretty much left, because he killed Gin, he killed Rasana, he killed Cooney, he killed Luan, he killed Moon, he killed Rin, he killed Otho, he killed the other dude that starts with his last name starts with a D. He had the brother. He killed that guy.
Yep.
Like, he's just knocking them all off. That's 8 that I just named off the top of my head.
Yep. So what's left is the gods and Lady Gia.
Lady Gia. Yeah.
That's
pretty much it from the originals.
Yeah, and I don't know why. Yeah,
I feel like it's just he wanted to do that. Like, he wants to move on to that next generation more than he felt like all these people would have died, because they just kept like dropping like flies. And I'm just, why?
Yep. In kind of strange ways too that didn't necessarily need to happen.
Yeah.
So I get Cooney's death.
Yeah, that one I felt like was probably the best.
Yes.
Out of all of them.
Yep. That made sense. I felt like it was a little early because I didn't think that he was that old and everything, but
right.
Has to die, I guess.
Well, once he got captured, he almost had to die. Like, there really was no other choice. But I feel like it was very out of character for Gia to push Cooney to go to Rui to start this war, like to really like fight there just to get her son back. I felt like that was extremely out of character, because Gia is so calculating, and she knew that was a bad call. And I just don't think she would have made that call. I don't think it made sense for the character arc that she had in this story. And I think he just wanted it so that the Liuku could seem to be more strategists and a better enemy and more powerful.
Right.
So.
Were you aware? Oh my goodness, we just talked about him. Luan Zia, is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zia.
Were you aware that he had the love child?
Yeah.
Like, was that in the first book? That he was the father?
We knew that they had a thing going on. I don't remember that she had a kid in the first book.
Okay, I didn't think so. Okay, so it was in the second one then.
I'm pretty sure it was just in the second one that the kid came in. But I knew from the beginning it was his.
You did? Did they tell us?
Well, I mean, I assumed it was his.
Oh, see, I didn't. That took me by
Oh,
surprise when she's like, "Why didn't you let me go to my dad's funeral or whatever it was? Why is that why you cried at his
right.
funeral?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, that makes sense now." Like,
Yes.
yeah, that was
Yeah, I knew they had a thing, and then at the
right.
beginning of this book, when she had a daughter, I just assumed it was his kid all along.
Oh,
But I guess that's kind of cool. I never thought of people not seeing that. So
yeah,
that would be a really kind of cool twist, and I
yep,
like that.
yeah. I thought it was fun. I was like, "Wow, cool," because he gets to live on in a
He
way,
does, yeah.
through Zuni. Is it Zuni?
Aya, I think is her name.
Yeah, that's his protege basically, and then
Oh,
his daughter.
Zomi?
Oh, Zone. There, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
he has her, but then Aya is his daughter, I think is her
Okay,
name.
yeah. So he
But
gets to live on
she's
in
so
both of them.
young.
She's very young.
Like,
Yeah,
I feel like they killed off both her parents too early for her to step into either of their
it's
shoes.
ridiculous.
And so I'm like, who's going to be the next like big military strategist? Because we need
Right.
one of those if we're going to win.
Yep. Yeah, you're gonna need a commanding general. Like you
Yeah.
have to. And they have to be great tactician. They have
Yeah.
to be able to do that, especially with the size of apparently the barbarian nation is pretty large. I guess
Right. But no more are coming. They just killed them.
that's what you think.
That is what I think. But they also said there's not going to be another opening for 10 years.
Right.
So
So
they have to hold on for 10 years.
yeah.
I don't think they can, especially now that we have dragons too.
Right. Yeah, because he brought those. They have their eggs, and yeah. So we're gonna see.
And they hatched already, so we know they're gonna like it's going.
Yep. And he knows how to raise them.
And they're going back to get some of his people who are going to join our side.
Yeah, apparently, right? Yeah, which I thought was cool. They're bringing another people in, which is pretty cool, right?
And I kind of like it. Like, I feel like the other people on that island, the Argons, I don't remember what they were called.
Yep.
It started with an A. But they seemed very warlike as well, but less brutal.
Were those kind of like the tribal people that they went to and asked if they worship the same gods?
No.
No.
So these are different people.
Different people. Okay.
So the Ano are the people that are on that island that worship different. I liked those guys.
Yeah, I think they're cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they're super cool.
Good job on that.
But yeah, no, I really do like that they're pulling the other peoples in where they're kind of showing like we're not unwilling to allow you to share our land. We're unwilling for you to conquer, kill us, and take our land.
Right. Yep. Yeah, they were cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think us having dragons is going to be cool. I also liked the way that he made them breathe fire.
Yeah, how
they
like snap their jaws.
Yeah, clever. Plus they have, I feel like it's methane because they're kind of like cows. They have the complex internals, and the cows are known, our cows, real cows are known
methane gas.
Yeah, which is very flammable. So that would make sense. That's how they breathe fire, right?
Right.
Because you never really get that detail.
No, they just don't have the same words that we do.
Right.
So he wouldn't tell us the words that we would recognize, like this silk. What did they call it?
Oh, yeah. But it's basically static electricity.
Yeah. It's electricity, but like they call it silk something.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is. Like silk power or silk.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah. Yep. I thought that was cool too.
Yeah, they just use different words than us for stuff, but
for the first half of the book, or maybe even a little more, you're really dealing with, I guess, the empire trying to grow, trying to become an empire, like it's fledgling.
Yeah.
And like Cooney's trying to figure out like how to be an emperor. And so I think that's the part that's long that people are like, why are we're reading about, budgeting policies and public policies and things like, what are we doing? But it does set up a good story for who we're rooting for. Right.
Right. Yeah. It really gets you invested in the characters.
Yes. And gives you a little more respect. The emperor set up the testing for the scholars, which I thought was a little extreme. But it was
right. But he's trying, right? Like he's trying to make this fair for everyone, even though like we know that Zomi's right and it's not fair. like
Yes.
we're aware of this, but like he legitimately is trying to do his best for his people and trying to be fair, even though he doesn't really know how to do it as well as he
Right.
should. But he's also like he's not a politician.
No,
In
not at
like
all.
he was never raised to do this. He has no idea what he's doing. Like I think overall he does an excellent job considering he had no training in this.
Yeah.
And he is in this position because he won a war.
Right.
Like it's not because he is the best man for the job. Like I don't think he's bad.
No.
But
He just he's not a natural born politician.
no.
And he's not a classically educated one either. He's just someone who didn't like how things were going, so decided to take things into his own hands.
Right.
You know, and he's got these women that are also helping, you know, they have their own
agenda. I think he's very smart though, because he recognizes that, but he also recognizes that his daughter is very good at it.
Right.
And she is natural born that. And so he's like he can see the people that need to be in the different positions. And I think that's one of his greatest skills is that he can pick out who is best for these things, even though he's not best for them.
Right. Yep. I thought that was cool.
I love that he chose his daughter because even from the beginning, I felt that way. Even before I knew that he felt that way, I was like, oh, if Thera could be it, like she would be amazing.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Which is okay. I'm also kind of confused why Thera had to go to that island with the prince to get his people. Why couldn't she stay and rule and wait for him to get back?
I thought she wanted to go, didn't she?
She did, but why? Like, doesn't she want to protect her people? She's the empress.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
It is very weird to me. Plus, she's in love with Zomi, and she's like, bye. I'm like,
yeah,
you're flighty, aren't you?
Yeah, and even Zomi was like, why? Like, why are you doing this? And she's like, well, we're all just gonna keep changing, and like it sucks, but like
go with the flow.
Like dang, like you're just gonna leave her like that?
Yeah, yep. and she knows her brother isn't good for the job, yet she gives it to him anyways. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yep. She's got a little of her mother in her.
Yeah. I was like, I felt like you were excellent for the job until like the last 50 pages or so. Then I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong, didn't you?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I thought I had read a review the other day where someone was complaining about how we read about Cooney's kids. And I'm just like, well, why are you upset? Like the emperor's got to have offspring, right? Otherwise, you know. But they said they didn't want no kids for the emperor. He's supposed to rule forever or something. And I never got that out of the first or second book that he was.
I don't get that. I do agree, though. I actually did enjoy following the characters from the first book better. Like I liked Luon better than Zomi. I liked Gin better than Firo. I liked Cooney better than Thera. Like I actually liked our original characters more than these new characters. So I do get it. Like if I were to pick, I would not have picked to switch to these characters because I just don't like them as much. They're not as endearing for me.
Right. Yeah. You're not fully attached yet, right? Maybe in the next book you'll be.
No, but like I've spent a whole book with them and I like and thinking like just looking between them, I just find the other characters more engaging and more interesting. Like they're just, I don't know, they just have something more about them that I love. Like I don't think any of the other characters have that same, like they don't inspire me the same way as the other ones did.
Yep. Yeah, I feel that. Yep. I don't know.
I feel like if we'd never gotten those original characters, I probably would have loved these second characters. But I just am like, oh, I like the other ones better.
Yep. No, he kind of, I feel like he did it on I kind of keep it interesting.
Oh, he did do it on purpose. I personally liked the original cast better.
Yeah. Yep. I feel it.
Someone else might disagree with me, and that's great because then you're probably going to enjoy the other books better because all the other people I like are dead. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're all gone. Yeah. That's how that goes, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think I've talked about all the things that I liked.
Yeah.
And disliked, I think. They were kind of, One of the things I didn't like was the impracticality of the city ships. Okay.
They're
Now
kind of like cruise ships, is what
that's
I
what I was
thought.
thinking. I'm getting cruise ship / aircraft carrier feel.
Yeah.
Like they're carrying like 5,000. I don't think you could do that out of wood.
Right. And I don't think
You
you
know,
could carry those animals on board either. Like it wouldn't be practical. They couldn't be under the decks that long like
right.
that. Like that would cause muscle atrophy and
Right.
they wouldn't be able to function when you got to the island.
Thank you. Yeah. See, so though that aspect, I mean, it's a great concept and all, but like that is a criticism I have. Is just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, but it's okay. It's a fantasy. I guess you can do
Right.
what
And
you want.
yeah, you got to kind of like pick and choose your battles. I had other things that I was like, that just isn't realistic. Like a lot of the things that happened seemed very convenient, right?
Yes.
Like the dude got swallowed by a whale.
Yeah.
Even though he was kept alive by the gods, the fact that the whale just swallowed him whole with the eggs and they were still all intact and able to hatch.
Right.
And like other little things like, or the dad of Zomi who somehow got like spit up, that like I don't know how he got there either. I don't remember, but it was very unrealistic and stuff. Like these weird, very impractical things would happen. And I feel like that's more of a like cultural aspect put into this writing rather than a convenience, actually. Like I think it is more of a culture thing rather than a convenience thing.
Yep. Because the author said in the first book that he was inspired by listening to these old stories.
Right. Yeah.
His homeland, like basically, right? I don't remember where he's from, but I do know that he was inspired by those things. So you're right. You're probably right. It's a culture thing, which I thought was really cool. Very cool aspect.
Yeah. Like I think it's cool to add it in, but there's always that like fantasy reader of me that's like, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah. No, I definitely don't want people thinking that like there's not anything to pick apart. Like,
oh no, like there's
always something.
Yeah, like no book's perfect. Even though I loved it and I'm still thinking about it and it's gonna stick with me. Like, of course, there's issues. Like everything has them.
So. But they did good. I think, I think the author is doing really good. I don't know, is he a new author or is he growing or is he?
He's not 100% new. Like this isn't a debut.
Okay.
Like he has a collection of short stories and he has something else out. I don't know what is it on the back of here.
This is like his first epic, right? Like his first real big.
Yeah. This is his like first big epic series stuff. He's done a lot of translating work as well. So he translated like Cixin Liu's series, the 3-Body Problem, and those ones and he won like awards for that translation, which I hear is like phenomenally done. I haven't read it, but it's on my list. And he's done some other things as well. So I looked into it, and this one, as far as I can tell, it was originally written in English, though. It's not something he wrote and then translated. So
yep. Yeah, you can tell the author is very intelligent.
Oh yeah, he's so smart.
Yeah, there's what I'm getting out of this author is not a lot of laziness.
No.
Like I feel like he's putting in the work and he's passionate. Like he cares about what he's doing. Because sometimes you read a book and they're just like, oh yeah, and then these people died in the end. And it's like, wait, like what are you doing? Like, no, he has passion and creativity. He's really good. Yeah. So I don't know, only minuscule like things that you could pick apart.
Yeah, I mean
something. So
well, and there's always things that are more to one person's taste than another. It's not necessarily something wrong with the book. It's just things that people have personal preferences on, and that's always going to be a thing in literature. And that's kind of the beauty of literature, I feel like, is that nothing is the perfect book, and the fact that people don't like it or don't like certain aspects of it really doesn't diminish from whether it's good or not. For like overall, like I love this book, but I know a lot of people who have tried to read it and they're like, I can't even get through it. So
I understand how it could be difficult because it's not your typical, like you actually have to pay attention.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not a leisure read, I guess.
No. Like
you do need to, and I imagine if you're reading, because I listen to it, but I own it. Well, I don't own this one, but the first and third, if you read it, I mean, those names are difficult.
They are.
Like, it's not like Sam and Pippin. Like it is, like it's difficult. Like
They are. And I feel like the thing is they aren't always complex names. Like some of them are, right?
right.
But like Kuni isn't a hard name, but like they always call him Kunigaru. So you have to like
Yep.
kind of get the whole name together.
Yep.
And I don't know. I feel like I'll mix up the vowels all the time.
Yeah. And then
Which
he took
order they go in.
name, Rogan, right? Is it Rogan?
Yeah, Rogan.
Yeah. Yeah, which is his name as the emperor. Yeah. I just think
And they call him Ranga all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So like if you're not paying attention, you're gonna be sitting here like, wait, who is this guy? When it's the same person, that it's been. It's just a different name right now.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It's good. It makes you think. Like you have to think. And I guess I really like how he alludes, you can feel the Asian aspect when he's alluding to all the flowers. Like even from the first book, which I get it. It's, the Dandelion Dynasty or what,
And the chrysanthemum.
Right. Yeah. Like there's a lot he talks about the lotus. Like he does. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of flower references in
which
here.
You don't see in fantasy very often.
No, it's not. You do see it actually quite a bit in Asian fantasy. I think it's more popular in their culture. Yeah, like having like the flowers and the like plant aspects seems to be more popular in Asian fantasy.
Yep. I thought that was really cool. I'd never experienced that before because I've only read Western styles, everything after Tolkien. Like so that's a really cool new aspect to the fantasy. Yeah. I guess it's pretty cool. So yeah.
It is pretty cool. He does a lot of cool stuff.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and overall thoughts. Love it. Like it. How you feel?
Yep. Overall, I would say I actually really liked this book a lot. I don't know if it's a love yet. We'll see. I definitely way better than the first one for me, at least. Like I felt like I really grew. But yeah, overall, I like the book a lot. It's just something different. It's not going to be the same thing you're used to reading all the time.
Yeah.
And it challenges you. Like you have to think.
Yeah.
Not too long.
It is. It's good. I actually loved this book. And I think while I was reading it, I didn't know how I was going to feel about it. Because it did give me so many emotions that actually caused me like a lot of anxiety because I was like, please stop making these terrible decisions. Like I can see exactly what's going to come from them and you need to stop. So those types of things. But like when things would happen, like it's kind of like the end of Brandon Sanderson books where you have that like the big epic moments, the big epic battles, the twists, the like new things that are thrown in right at the end. And I just loved that so much. I liked the whole book. And then the end was just like, I loved it. So yeah.
I agree. Yep. Really cool overall.
Yeah. I'm really excited to start the next book. I'm going to start reading it next month. So if you guys want to join in, there'll be another live show probably the beginning of June or maybe mid-June, like right before the fourth book comes out. So
perfect timing.
Yes, it'll be great. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining and we will see you in the next live. Bye.